So now I'll go into the design process and kind of outline a little bit of the challenges with the longitudinal surveys. And the data that we're showing is also accessible via IR to see in terms of breakdown. Kate, remind me, is the pulse survey data, can they do by role as well? Okay. So the data that we're sharing is something that's accessible via the dashboard through IR that you can see kind of the larger campus-wide, and you can also separate by whether they're MIT-based or at Lincoln Labs as well. So when we were going through the design process in terms of like the longitudinal studies, there's a few different things to consider. But as with any survey, and as Kate has already pointed out, you need to start with your question, like what's your why? What are you going after? And for us, it was really to get a sense of what life was like and what were the pain points for people that were no longer working on campus or as they moved to campus. And so that helped inform as we were doing the survey. With longitudinal surveys, you may find that in an initial iteration of the survey that you may want to change some of the survey or some of the questions, and you have to figure out what will that be. In addition to also figuring out what questions you will ask, you then have to figure out, are you going to grow? Are you looking to grow the data in terms of, because if you change a question, then you can't necessarily benchmark it. Or are we looking to refine, meaning increase the quality of the data as we look to move forward? And again, knowing what our goal is and purpose of the survey helps us in figuring that out. So as an example, one of the questions that was changed between the May and June survey was around physical resources, which was the bottom of the pyramid frame, if you remember that from before. And so what you can see is that there were a lot of that were other, and we needed to know more. And the purpose was, again, to help inform those that had the resources with how to best use those resources. And so the decision was that we really need, and from open comments, we were able to gather that there was a request for like desks, office chairs, etc. And so that's how it was sparsed out. And we decided that it was worth it to change the question rather than to just continue to benchmark about other computers, etc. And so it was shifted, and we tried to make it more useful information for folks. And this actually resulted in a lot of helpful information for EHS as they were looking, and also managers out of HR in terms of figuring out what resources would be most helpful to people overall. And it helps inform some of the fiscal decisions and whatnot. And again, it's a piece of a larger pie, but it was an important piece to some people in terms of knowing how that was broken down.